Hello, I'm SKZ and welcome to Hops of Steel, where a quirkless Izuku tries to imitate Mirko's quirk, creating bunny mechanical accessories like ears, legs, and even a tail. And just as his mother promised, the next day they began their routine. First, they ate a light breakfast, then Izuku showered and went with his mother. Then the joyful routine began. First, he trained with his mother. Then they moved on to doing small jumps and kicking a pillow that his mother had modified the night before. After his light exercise, he went to the kindergarten, where he no longer paid much attention to his classmates. And so it went almost every day. He exercised in the morning and went to the kindergarten in the afternoon, where he distanced himself so much that he no longer liked to join the others. He reached a point where, following this routine, his body began to adapt. He no longer got tired, he had more energy, and his punches became stronger and stronger. He had already destroyed the pillow several times and run around the house in 5 minutes. And as soon as he learned to write, the first thing he did was make a notebook with the name Mirko's exercise jumps and kicks. Although he had made a lot of progress and learned a lot, Inko began to worry. Izuku hardly spoke to anyone except her anymore. In the kindergarten, they called her countless times to tell her that Izuku no longer wanted to participate in activities with his classmates, that he wanted to be alone and do everything for himself. She told herself that maybe this wasn't for Izuku, that her child had to live his childhood and be with others. And even though she had agreed to train Izuku at first, she didn't expect her son to take it so seriously. In fact, she thought that he would give up after a few days. So one night when Izuku came home from kindergarten, Inko picked him up and sat him on her lap, looking a little sad. "Izuku, sweetie," she whispered softly, making Izuku lift his head toward her. "What's wrong, mommy?" Inko sighed. "Izuku, you're distancing yourself from a lot of people. It's best to slow down a little and pick it up again when you're older." Her trembling hand moved up to Izuku's head, stroking his soft, warm hair. "Do you agree, sweetie?" Izuku frowned. "But we'll keep going, right?" Inko nodded. She knew her son wanted to keep going, to pursue this dream that was so big for someone so small that he wouldn't give up so easily. But she also knew that Izuku was like that. Shy, reserved. "Yes, sweetie, we'll keep going, but more gently." Izuku nodded somewhat reluctantly. Inko smiled back at him. And so, their journey continued, now more gently. But Izuku didn't open up as the adults had hoped. Inko begged them to give them a moment, that her son was like that please they wouldn't force him. He was growing at his own pace. And so the days began to pass. Izuku sitting under trees, writing in his little notebook about heroes, sometimes even jumping and kicking the tree with his little feet. The children no longer bothered him, for now they were distracted playing with balls and dolls. He earned the nickname the Mysterious Boy. The years began to pass. When he entered elementary school, he was the boy who stood out the most in physical education. In addition, his fanaticism for Mirko had grown. He had many rabbits at home, and although it was hard for him to accept, he ended up having more Mirko posters than all my posters. But being outstanding also led to a lot of bullying and his classmates taking advantage of him. They wondered angrily how a boy without a quirk, useless and weak, could excel so much in physical education, without it even being his favorite subject. Although Izuku still didn't care what his classmates thought. Sometimes he cried alone, sometimes he let out everything he felt. These were moments of weakness, when his mother was with him. And when he felt better, he would go back to training and watching Mirko videos with enthusiasm. However, as the years went by and he reached middle school, everything changed completely. Now the bullying he had tried to ignore for years had become even worse. It went from simple insults to shoving, then to hitting, which made him withdraw even more. And by the time he was 14, he already had a long history and track record. For such a young age, he already had well-developed leg muscles. Muscles that had saved him so many times, that had helped him run, hide, and avoid the blows his classmates gave him. Especially Katsuki. Katsuki. That boy he considered his best friend had become his tormentor. He didn't know if it was jealousy or something else, but he exploded every time he saw Izuku training, every time Izuku ran away. Sometimes he talked about the muscles Izuku had developed in his legs, saying how useless they were, that they were only good for running like the coward that Izuku was. But you know what? Izuku had heard this many times before. They could even put a speaker in his room with Katsuki's voice repeating this over and over again, and he still wouldn't care. He lived in his own world and didn't need anyone to take him out of it. And let's not forget that notebook he started writing years ago. Well, the one he wrote, because he finished it. Is he on his 6th or 9th notebook now? He doesn't remember well, but they all analyze Mirko and how he manages his exercise routine. Time had passed so quickly. Now he was a teenager in a school he couldn't care less about. But oh well.